Okay, this is notes 12.6, surface area and volume of spheres. It's going to be page 86 and 87. Put that in your spiral. Okay. Surface area and volume of spheres. Theorem 1211 says the surface area is 4 pi r squared, where r is going to be the radius of the sphere. And then on Theorem 1212 says the volume. So this one was surface area and this one is volume of a sphere. And the volume is 4 pi r cubed divided by 3, where r is the radius again, so that you can see the two formulas for it. So remember that when it's a square, it's surface area, and cube is the volume. So that'll help you remember which one's which. So when I go to example 1, let me zoom in. Okay, and if I'm looking at it, it wants to find the surface area, so that means I'm using the formula 4 pi r squared for my surface area. And the r is a 7, so that means I'm going to do 4 times pi times 7 squared. I'm going to grab my calculator and type in 4 pi times 7 squared. And that gives me 615.75. Or 8, and that would be squared for my surface area. On example 2, it says we want to find the diameter of the sphere, and that means they give us the surface area being 110.25 pi, and we're looking for the diameter. So my formula for the surface area is 4 pi r squared. So I'm going to replace the surface area with 110.25 pi will equal 4 pi r squared. Well, I'm going to start out by dividing by 4 pi, and the pi's will cancel out. So basically I'm just dividing 110.25 by 4. Oops. There we go. And it shows that this is 27.5625, and that will be equal to my r squared. So I need to find r, so I'm going to take the square root of this number. So if I put that in my calculator, it gives me 5.25 is my radius. And I know that radius is half of the sphere, so that means I just need to double this. I'm going to multiply it by 2 and see that my diameter is 10.5 feet. On example 3, they're now asking for the volume, so that is the other theorem, 1212. This says the volume is 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. And they tell you that the radius is a 3 in this problem. If I replace my values, that would be 4 pi times the radius, which is 3 cubed, divided by 3. I'm going to go to my calculator and type this in. In that fashion, and I'll push enter and get 113.1, and that would be millimeters cubed because it's dealing with volume. Okay, if I go to my second page on page 87, it wants us to find the volume of the composite solid. So if I'm looking at my solid, notice I have a cylinder, but then this part here at the top, as well as this curving, is half of a sphere. So that part is actually removed from my cylinder. Since it's being removed, they're on top of each other. That means I will be subtracting my values once I get the calculations. So if I deal with the cylinder first, I want to find the volume of the cylinder. That was capital BH, which is the same thing as pi r squared h. Here I have the radius is going to be 3 for my radius, and the height is 5. So I'm going to plug them in and have pi times 3 squared times 5. And so far, that's about 114.3716, and on and on and on. I'm going to leave that in my calculator. Now, if I take the volume of the sphere, the formula was 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. So when I replace my values, I'm going to type it in my calculator. So I have it entered. That gives me 113.097 on and on and on. I'm going to leave that in my calculator. And now to find my composite volume, or my total volume, I'm going to take my two values and subtract them. So I'm going to go up and find the 114 or 144 and subtract 113. And that gives me 28.3 inches cubed is my total volume. Okay, here we go with the examples, independent practice. I want you to work them and then pause the video and then start it again in 5 minutes to see this question. Okay, on number 1, we're going to find the surface area of the sphere, but they give me the diameter looking kind of unusual. It says 1 over square root of pi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 divided by pi, square root of pi, and find out that it's 5.6. I'm going to divide it in half, and it tells me the radius is roughly 282, and on in the calculator. So my formula says to square it. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to square it and multiply it times 4 and multiply it times pi, so that I can have it all right here. So that would be 4 times pi times this 0.282 on and on squared, and that will actually give me my answer of 1. And that would be meters squared. On the second one, it tells you your surface area is 196 pi, and you're asked to find the radius, so you're looking for r. So that means I'm going to substitute 196 pi is equal to 4 pi r squared. I'm going to divide by 4 pi. It tells me this is 42.25 is equal to r squared, and then to find r, I'm going to take the square root of my number, and that gives me 6.5. So my radius is 6.5 inches. Okay, now you have your bottom 2 problems. Once you work those, and start again in 5 minutes. Okay, on this one, we're finding the volume of the sphere, and the radius is 2.4 centimeters, and they want us to round our answer to 2 decimals. So if I just place it in there, okay, so it's just filling it in. So I put it in the calculator. It'd be 4 pi, so that I have 4 pi times 2.4 squared divided by 3 equals, and this should be 24.13 centimeters cubed should be your answer there. Okay, then on number 4, we have a cylinder with a hemisphere on the end of it, and it's outside of it, so that means on this picture I'm actually going to have to add my 2 volumes together. So, oh, I just realized something. Up here on the sphere, I should divide this by 2, because this is a hemisphere, not a complete sphere. So this answer is wrong. Okay, so I need to take that value that I had there and correct it. This would be 4 pi times 3 cubed, oops, and then divide by 3. I have to divide that answer by 2, and this should have been 56.5486, and on and on and on. So I need to go back to that one. My apologies, I just realized that. So I take that number, and I'm going to subtract the 56, and this should have been 84.8 inches cubed. That should have been its answer. Sorry about that. Hope y'all caught that before I did. Okay, so back down to the one we're working on. This says here that the radius is 5.8. So on the sphere formula, I'm going to have 4 pi and then the 5.8 cubed. I'm going to divide it by 3, and then when I get my answer, I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, so I have about 817.28 and on, and then I divided this by 2, and I came out with about 408.64, and so on. And it's in my calculator. So for the cylinder, I'm still going to have pi. My radius is still 5.8. I'm going to square it, and then the height here is 14. Okay, and this one has 1,479.564, and on and on. And now, since here the hemisphere that we're looking at is on the outside, so I have to actually add those 2 values together to get my total volume. So I'm going to take the 1,400 plus the 408 and add them to come up with a total of 1,888.21. Does this say around 2 decimals? Yep. And this would be feet cubed, because we're dealing with volume. Okay, if you got these correct, give yourself a smiley face, and you can pick up your worksheet.